That's what it sounded like 3 weeks ago as newlyweds Shawna Magence and Stephen Weiss were being serenaded by their guests attending their Jewish wedding ceremony in Boca Raton, Florida. But instead of the happy new couple, each sitting on a banquet chair and being lifted into the air as part of the traditional first hora dance, the groom found himself being strapped to an emergency stretcher, his right foot wrapped in bandages, while his bride walked beside him when the paramedics from the local Jewish Hatzalah organization wheeled him to a waiting ambulance. Moments earlier, the couple had stood under their wedding canopy, and the groom successfully completed a key part of the ceremony. He'd stomped on a glass wrapped in a napkin, the broken goblet symbolizing the destruction of the Second Temple. But soon, guests noticed puddles of blood on the ground. The stunned groom didn't realize he'd sliced his foot open with a piece of glass piercing his leather dress shoe. It was a pretty deep gash. The party would have to go on without him. The freak accident certainly wasn't on the list when Shawna Magence of Toronto and her groom, who hails from Long Island's 5 towns, made the arrangements for their big day. But to hear her tell it, their unforgettable wedding was just one of the challenges they faced since the pair met last year in New York for their first date in person. It's a second marriage for both of them. She's 55, he's 59. She has 4 kids and 6 grandchildren. He has 3 children. They decided to get hitched this summer in New York, but the first wedding date was ruined when her Canadian divorce papers weren't ready in time. They next tried a destination wedding, but that didn't work out either. It's no wonder the bride was superstitious that something would go wrong as the final touches were being put in place for her simcha at the restaurant in Boca Raton last month.
So once we finally, on November 16th, after only being in Florida for exactly 1 month, decided that we were going to get married here and pulled something quick together, and everybody came and they said to us, you know, finally, you're getting married. And I say, shh, don't say anything until he steps on the glass.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Friday, December 5th, 2025. Welcome to North Star, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, and made possible thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. The happy couple's now taking their freak wedding interruption all in stride, including the groom's 9 stitches and the doctor's orders to stay completely off his foot for a few weeks and use a walking scooter. It's not the first ever case of a broken glass injuring grooms. In the last decade, I found at least 5 similar accidents happened at Jewish weddings across Israel. In one case, the groom sued the wedding venue and won a tidy payout. But despite the fact this bride comes from a well-known family of personal injury lawyers in Toronto, she worked at the firm founded by her father, Hy Bergel. She says the couple is now planning their honeymoon, not legal action. And she's getting to work pursuing a new career, selling real estate in Florida, where the couple has started their married life together. While Steve was unavailable, I did reach Shawna in Coconut Creek, Florida, at their new home in Wynmoor, a popular adult lifestyle village. Congratulations, Mazel Tov.
Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And we're talking 2.5 weeks later, and you haven't gone on a honeymoon.
Oh, no.
You can't go on a honeymoon because you have a husband that can't walk. Tell us.
He just got the stitches out, so let's be clear. He's going on Sunday, so.
Mazel tov. The reason that we're hearing from you is one of the guests at your wedding emailed me and said, you're never going to believe what happened at my friend's wedding in Florida. Can you walk us through the last few hours of your wedding and what happened?
Yeah, so there's a whole pre-story. I walk down, Stevie comes to meet me, and we have a beautiful ceremony. And I don't know what's going on inside Stevie's head, but he steps on the glass, and we're all saying, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov. And we look on the floor, and there is blood. And we said, is your hand bleeding? What's going on? Why is there blood? And we realize that there is blood coming from his foot, but not a little bit of blood. Like, it looks like a murder scene. And we have no idea what's going on. So they sit him down, and it turns out that when he stepped on the glass, it went right through his shoe. And it wasn't just a little cut, which I would imagine possibly could happen, but it went right through, and he actually left the wedding in an ambulance. and missed the whole reception.
But you must have been so scared because he didn't cry out or anything. He didn't make any sound that he was injured. And then there's blood gushing.
You know, he explains, like, he had this adrenaline. He was so excited. And one of the things he said, he says, I don't want to be one of those guys who has to step twice. We are getting this done. So he was really serious about stepping on that glass. He got it done, but he had no idea what kind of a fluke this happened. But he did not feel pain. He was just excited to be married. He did not even realize what was going on. But like at any other Jewish wedding, not only did we have a plastic surgeon, a PA, a regular doctor, we also had a podiatrist at our wedding. So once he looked at his foot, he said, you've got to get right to the hospital. There is absolutely no option to just stay at the wedding. And so we went, like, danced everybody to the ambulance, and we actually did our yichud room inside the ambulance, which is kind of insane.
Okay, so it wasn't like life-threatening. He didn't have to be rushed that second. But tell me about the fact that the rabbi kind of is it true the rabbi insisted that you spend those 8 minutes in the ambulance before they let them take him to the
Yes.
hospital?
Yes, it was actually kind of crazy. He actually gave me the ring in the ambulance. That's probably a new thing that hasn't happened before. But yes, they insisted that we have 7 minutes alone in the ambulance. So that was really an interesting thing. And it's funny because it wasn't really alone. There were actually little windows there, but but that's what we did.
But the ambulance attendants, they weren't with you. They were outside.
They were outside. And what's so funny is Hatzalah is actually a Jewish ambulance, and they were like all in. They waited. Can you imagine that they allowed this to happen? And they were fabulous, really fabulous.
And what was going through your mind this whole time?
I think we both thought it was almost like surreal. And like everything else in our relationship, we take everything with a little bit of humor. And I wasn't worried that something was going to happen to him, but I didn't imagine him, getting the stitches and leaving the wedding. But I wasn't nervous that something happened. So his brother went with him to the hospital, and we had guests from New York and Toronto and Florida and Israel, and I couldn't just leave. So I stayed there. We had an amazing musician, and he just continued to play, and we continued the wedding. And then I went to the hospital after the wedding was over. So it was like kind of a nutso, kind of scenario, but really, in a way, it wasn't a surprise because our whole history has been different. Things have been a challenge to get to the wedding. So I think the fact that we're actually married was just, okay, all right. I think, like, God keeps wanting to tell us, don't worry, be grateful for every single thing. Like, okay, you're married, but it's not going to go perfectly smoothly. You're just going to have a little bit of a challenge here.
You stayed. Does that mean you didn't get to go up in the chair and be lifted at the hora, and he gets to be taken on a different kind of chair to the hospital,
Right.
but you didn't have that experience?
Exactly. There was a video of him on the stretcher going to that, and he's smiling away. I have to say, Stevie in general, and one of the things I love about him is that he's such a good sport. And the only time he felt pain was that day, but he definitely went away in a very special chair.
So you also were talking about this glass breaking. A lot of grooms and brides that sometimes do it, they really worry that if they don't get it the first time, it's bad luck. And so they practice. Tell me about this special glass that your friends gave you. Like,
Yeah.
what was it, a light bulb or what was it?
It was definitely not a light bulb. It was a beautiful glass that they asked us to choose. And the goal afterwards, we have a friend who makes these glass items into a mezuzah or a picture frame or something like really beautiful so that you can have the memory forever. So this was a special glass that was a gift. I want to be very clear. It's not the glass's fault or the people's fault. It was a fluke. So I don't want, we don't want anyone to feel bad or anything. It was, just God's plan for our wedding to be memorable in a very different way than we planned. The way the glass went in, it went in the side of his foot. It didn't go from the bottom of the shoe. So it went through the seam. So it really is not something that would normally happen. So I don't want everybody else.
It's more common. I've researched this since we've been in communications. I've researched this. And in the last few years, all in Israel, by the way, at least 5 of these things have happened. The ambulances had to come. The groom's got to go to the hospital. One of the grooms sued the wedding planner and the venue in Israel, and he got, it's 30,000 Israeli shekels. That's about 10,000 Canadian dollars, because they should have known that the glass wasn't, So I'm wondering if, you used to work for your families with personal injury lawyers. Was there any thought of your mind that this is like a legal thing you're going to malpractice?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, it's a funny story. Everybody's been sending us that video of that guy in Israel who won this lawsuit, but no, there's absolutely zero intention to do that. We both have been through so much. This is just a little hiccup. I got to play nurse for a couple of weeks. I think it's like, I wonder what the test is always. Every time something happens, you wonder what the test is. And I think one of the things was to show his mom that I would really take care of him. So that's like, an early testing of that. But no, we are definitely not suing anybody. There's no negativity. We take everything, move positive, move forward, take everything with a grain of salt. And again, the concept behind stepping on the glass is to remember the Beit HaMikdash and to remember that even in good times, there's something that you're supposed to remember, that everything isn't perfect. We got our own personal memory of that.
Ever since October 7th, 2023, Muslim and Jewish communities in Canada have been torn apart.
I've known you for 20 years. You've been at my house for Shabbat supper, I don't know how many times. And for 1 second, you can't put down your friend and just hold my hand?
We're fed a constant stream of Jews and Muslims talking at each other, about each other, but rarely do we hear them talking to each other.
Why are you doing this? What's the benefit of doing this?
This podcast aims to do something different. I'm Avi Feingold, a rabbi and a writer with the Canadian Jewish News.
I'm Yafa Sakeja, a Canadian-Palestinian entrepreneur and volunteer with the Canadian Friends of Standing Together.
We're sitting down with Jews and Muslims, Israelis and Palestinians from coast to coast and across the political divide, having difficult conversations in good faith.
We are not the Israeli government. Palestinians are not Hamas.
This is the place where we're both supposed to end up, Israeli and Palestinian, Arab and Jewish.
Subscribe to In Good Faith, wherever you listen to podcasts.
How did you two meet, and how did you end up now wanting to get married? Tell us the in between that, the missing part.
Yes. So both of us are divorced, and neither of us thought we would ever want to get married again. That's like a big thing that we don't want to. But we had like a big group of friends, and we would hang out with friends and stuff. And my friend's son is married to Stevie's niece. And she mentioned in passing, oh, you should meet my uncle because he's always doing these events. So it happens that a couple years ago we met, we talked for a minute, and we became Facebook friends. And then on Facebook, actually, because it's very funny, I'm a big social media person, and he posted some great pictures. And I said, oh, looks like you did a photo shoot. I'd love to do that sometime. So he says I asked him out. I did not know I was asking him out. And when he planned something for us to do, I said, oh, should we invite everybody? And he says, nah, let's just go the two of us. So that is how we went out for the first time. Very, very little pressure because I didn't even know it was a date. And I didn't know it was a date for the first couple times, but we started to go out in March 2024. So the fact that we even wanted to get married was huge, is huge. And we just were so sure. And we know the statistics are really bad. So we were worried about that before we met each other. But once we met each other and went through this process, we knew we wanted to get married. And we had originally planned to get married in August. But a few different things happened, including my divorce not being final, but also being stuck in Israel. I didn't mention this to you. We were stuck in Israel during the Iran war. And we were sitting in the bomb shelter, and I said to Stevie, I said, you know what? It's kind of crazy. I'm more worried about planning the wedding right now with not knowing that the divorce went through than I am about these bombs like falling on us. And I said, that's not a normal thing. Let's do something a little more low key. We still plan to get married in August, but let's do something a little more low key. And we brought the kids in all over. I have kids in Israel and Toronto and New York, and he has kids in New York and Virginia. We brought everybody in for August, and my divorce had not gone through. So that was like the one wedding that we were planning. And then when the divorce went through a couple of weeks before Rosh Hashanah, we thought, okay, we'll go just into a rabbi's office. We'll just do this. But you need in New York, you need to get a civil marriage. It's the law. And so they needed my original divorce decree or whatever it is. And that was in Toronto. There was not enough time to get it there. And then we were moving from New York to Florida. We had no time to do it. So we said, oh, we'll get married in Cancun because we were going to go there for Sukkot. And then the rabbi said, you can't get married on a holiday. So really, this was like the fourth or fifth thing that we tried to plan. And that's why people said, oh my gosh, finally you're getting married. And I'm like, shh. So our story seems to continue.
But it didn't end in the hospital. It didn't end with this. There's more to this whole wedding. You didn't finish that day. There was more to do, was there not?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that you do at a wedding is you say Sheva Brachot, or the 7 blessings, at the meal. And especially for a second marriage, you don't have the full 7 days of Sheva Brachos, but the one you have to do is at the meal. You can't do the Sheva Brachos without the groom. So he wasn't there. And so what happened was the next night we had some friends who were leaving to go back to Toronto, and we went out for dinner with them, and we randomly gathered people at this restaurant who helped say the brachot. But even there, it was really funny. You need to have wine to do the Sheva Brachot. There was no wine at this restaurant.
And bread.
And bread. So bread, we got people to have bread in the end, but we had no wine. And then one of our friends who had been there for the weekend had a Bartanura can inside his suitcase, and he took it out and we used it. So we are officially married. The story, I hope the adventures continue. I believe that they will, but the story of actually getting married is hopefully done, unless, of course, we have all the kids come at one point and we go to Disney World and have some kind of princess do a second part of the marriage. But other than that, and we also did not have, my girls, unfortunately, could not come from Israel. So we hope to still do something with them in the summer.
Okay, so we're talking here Canada, 51st state, Trump, the whole thing, and a lot of also anti-Semitism. Many Jews are thinking of leaving and moving to Florida, where they think it might be safer. Why did you guys move to Florida?
I think Florida is a great solution for a lot of things. But one of the things, like, I personally want in my second part of life is peace and calm and good weather. I really didn't want to stay in New York, and I had started already thinking about Florida even before we met, because now that I'm not in Toronto anymore, my parents are down here for half the year. We actually live now 36 steps from my parents, which is a funny thing to do. But Florida is just beautiful and calm. It's a place that you still have friends that will always still come to visit. And if we're not in Israel, which is, of course, another place that everybody wants to go, then Florida is really the next best thing. And it's funny, I don't know if we're doing a plug for getting people to move to Florida, but one of the things I'm doing right now is a real estate course. So,
But you left New York just after the new mayor got elected.
We actually left right before, the elections were going on. But
right around the same time, right?
Yeah, my husband is from the 5 towns, and they don't actually, they didn't vote for the new mayor. Like it's not in that area that they voted. But yeah, I think a lot of people are thinking about making some change. And you know what? Even if they're not here full time, a lot of people are at least coming part time. Lots of Torontonians where we live, and I think there's like a GTA club, and they have over 600 members.
So are you still Canadian? You kept your citizenship?
It's not a matter of not keeping it. I'm Canadian because I will be Canadian at least for 5 years. What I am now is a permanent resident in the U.S., specifically Florida, and that will be like that for at least 5 years, and then you can apply for citizenship.
Right, and the green card to work and everything.
Yeah, so the green card I have.
You talked about the the stitches coming out. So what does that mean for honeymoon plans? I mean, he's still with a walker. How is your groom?
He is walking fine right now. He does have to be careful, but he is walking fine right now. But until now, he's had like a knee scooter. So now he can walk. But one of the things he couldn't get it wet at all before. Now he can get it wet, shower, but he still can't swim. And we are going on a cruise on Sunday. So we discussed this with the person that took out the stitches, the podiatrist. And basically the result is by mid next week, we're going to do a swimming excursion. We're going to go do some snorkeling or swim with the dolphins or something, but we're going to take it easy. And you know what? Again, everything, we now live in Florida. We could hop on a cruise anytime, last minute.
I want to quickly, before we end, just have talk a little bit about some of the things you do professionally. You mentioned real estate, but in between real estate and meeting your second beshert, you started this advice resource website for Jewish divorced women called After Forever.
So it's for all divorcees, all Jewish divorcees, not just women. And what it is, I should probably give a teeny bit of a background on this. I've been through a lot in the last 6 years. And again, I try to make meaning out of anything that happens to me. And so what I realize with 100% is that there's a purpose to it, and that the purpose is for me to be able to help other people. So since I've been separated, I've become a certified matchmaker, a certified relationship coach, a certified to'enet, which is a Beit Din advocate. I was in the process of also doing a certified divorce financial analyst, which I don't think I'm going to continue with. But what we really found that it was very hard to find resources, especially in Toronto. It was very hard for me to figure out what to do, who to speak to, where to go. And so when I came to New York and I became friends with my friend Esty Eisner, the two of us and some other people got together and we realized that there's a big need to get resources and help and advice and support for a lot of people. And so we created something called afterforever.org. And it is a platform where Jewish divorcees, men and women, can come to get support, advice, resources, articles, ask questions, vent, do whatever they need to do, obviously in a most respectful way. And you sign up to become part of it. And we really think this is going to take off and be very helpful. And one of the reasons it's different is there's a lot of Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups, but they're not for everybody. A lot of people are not on Facebook and it doesn't give you everything. We have even had an event, but we are starting to build this. We believe that the resources need to be there. We ask what kind of special, issues there are that people have, as that are specific for divorcees. Of course, by the way, also, if anyone is a widow, they're welcome to join that as well. We think a lot of things are overlap. Sometimes people have issues with kids or divorce lawyers or needing different kinds of things that I know I knew nothing about as a married person. It's actually hard to transition back into being a married person. I do think it's another unique stage that I will have to be able to figure out a little bit more. But right now, this is a great resource. We hope that people, we will have an opportunity to help many people.
So, you kind of took your advice and then you priced yourself out of the market type of thing, which is a good story in a way. This whole second marriage, beshert, finding love at this age and this stage, and then going through all these hoops. What do you hope people will take from this?
I think that the journey is something that always continues, and you should stay positive, hopeful, and really don't take yourselves too seriously because anything can happen. You can plan, they say man plans and, God laughs or changes your plans or whatever it is. But ultimately, the story can be fabulous. We are ever grateful for finding each other. Like that is just so huge. We know how big that is. We're so grateful that our children and our families are happy with this and supportive. And we know that we have so much bracha more than other people. So even though we've been through so many challenges, both before we met each other, and we know there'll be more as we continue on, we just really try to stay positive and respectful of each other. I think if I'm looking at advice to other people who are divorced or married, I don't think that you meet each other and then you're able to be calm and happy. I think you have to be calm and happy before you meet each other. I think you have to be at peace. I think you have to move forward, and then you're ready for that next step.
And so we wish your husband's foot fully refuah shlema with
Thank you.
no jellyfish or any bad things.
Oh my gosh, don't even.
Thank you for sharing this beautiful love story and this crazy story about your wedding with us.
It was my pleasure.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of North Star, made possible thanks to the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. We put links in the show notes to Shawna's new website, After Forever, which has resources and support for Jewish separated and divorced people and widows. Our show was produced by Andrea Varsany and Zachary Judah Kaufman, with Michael Freeman as our executive producer, and the theme written by Brett Higgins. Thanks for listening.